So this is a sales report for November 5th through November 11th. The total sales were $1,292.83, and the total number of items sold was 46. So that makes the average price sold is $28.10. But that might be skewed a little bit here or there. So the first thing that sold was a Swarovski crystal bracelet. It's just a multicolored little bracelet, and it sold for $10. The next item is a set of dart flights. I have so many of these, so many. It doesn't seem like much, but $2.99 here and there, but it adds up over time. So I sold 3 of these USMC dart flights for $2.99. The next item is a Littlest Pet Shop figure, and I sold quite a few of these this week, but this one sold for $3.59. I have quite the collection of Star Wars figures that I've accumulated over the past 3 years. It's this one though sold for $20. It probably could have got more, but it's in a little bit of rough condition. I don't know if you can see the paint flaking off there. Next up is a rare tie clip. It's a Hawk missile tie clip from the Vietnam era. This sold for $23.99. This right here is it's one of the first My Little Ponies. It's from the first series, the G1. It's called Twinkle Eye. This one sold for $18. And this went to someone, I believe it was somewhere in Eastern Europe. But in any event, it sold for $18. They ended up paying $31 total. This here is a pair of Oakley Square Wire 2s. They have the polarized sunglass lenses. These ones, anytime you can pick up some vintage Oakleys, you got to do it. I buy sunglasses and eyeglasses for $1.99 a piece, and I sell a few each week. This one sold for $70. This here is a vintage cast iron car. Again, you find these, you got to be careful though, because some are just remakes. But this one here sold for $29.99. Next we have another set of dart flights. This one is an NHL team, the Atlanta Thrashers. This sold for $2.99. This here is a little Chihuahua Littlest Pet Shop figure. Sold for $3.59. At one point had all these priced separately and different. Then I put them I tried to liquidate a lot of them because I have a ton of Littlest Pet Shop figures, and I put them at $1.99 and put them all up. I think I had 191 of them at the time. I sold quite a few for $1.99, but as you can see, some of them didn't sell, and they're selling now for $3.59. So I'd like to go through and reprice them all to their correct price, but honestly, I don't have the time. I just you buy so much of this stuff that I'm happy with getting $3.59. Next, we got another NHL set of dart flights. This is the Phoenix Coyotes, and they sold for $2.39. This is a vintage brooch. It's a little rhinestone brooch. It it has the letter F in the middle. Brooches sell really well. This is by no means a big money maker, but one of my biggest sales ever was a brooch from, it was a Paris art festival, and they gave out these apple-shaped brooches, and it sold for $1,500. Next, we got a pair of Yamamoto eyeglass frames. These sold for $50. I've had this next one in my store for a few years now. You can tell by the white background. I used to have a little white box that I had made with the lights that would shine through the tracing paper, but after a while it just kind of faded out. It got easier just to put it on my table, and to be honest, I haven't seen it make a difference having the white background or not. This one sold for $25. It's a vintage gaming chips. This one here is another Littlest Pet Shop. It's a polar bear. Sold for $3.59. Next, we have a sterling silver necklace, pearls. Before I started doing this, I used to believe that pearls were, meant high class. Someone would pay a lot of money. I believe it was the last Batman movie where Catwoman snuck in and stole his mom's pearl necklace. Reality is that they just don't sell that well. Um, I have at least 30 different pearl necklaces, and this one sold for $17.99. Next, we have a 2004 Dragon Ball Z action figure. After this sold, I had walked into Goodwill and I found 2 bags of the same era, 2001 to 2003 Dragon Ball Z figures. I spent $7 per package, and there was 63 total. One of them happens to be a rare one that goes for somewhere around $150. I've already got a $120 offer, but you know, but this one here, this Vegeta only goes. I got $8.99 for this one. The next 2 of these sales went to the same person. The first one is a Fossil brand snake necklace, and this other one is a Princess Charm bracelet. The person that this went to has bought them from me numerous times. They both went out the door for $13. I mentioned in the last video that I buy a lot of Chicago Bears memorabilia since we're right outside Chicago. And the 1985 was the last time the Bears won a championship. And here are a set of 4 whiskey glasses, and they sold for $75. This next one here is a Ben Amun rhinestone bracelet, and it sold for $14.99. We have another Husky Littlest Pet Shop toy, sold for $3.59. This is one of those sales that you just like. It's not big money, but it makes you laugh when you see it. It's a vintage Wilmot ski mountain pin. It's a little lapel pin, and believe it or not, this little lapel pin sold for $14.40. Here we have a set of 3 flight darts, the New York Giants, sold for $2.99. Right here is a vintage Oriental trinket box. I'm not really sure what exactly this box was originally used for. It seems more like decor, but it is sold for $18. The next 2 is kind of odd. They're the same exact figure, but each of them sold right after each other, and they went to 2 different people in 2 different counties in 2 different states. Just very odd coincidence. They are both a brown German Shepherd Littlest Pet Shop, number 1362. Each of them sold for $3.59. I buy a lot of brass figurines, and desk decor is what I like to refer to this kind of stuff as. And as you'll see, I sell quite a bit of these little brass figurines and paperweights and such. Right here is a small little family of owls, and these sold for $35.99. Next we have a treble clef lapel pin, and this sold for $8. Here's another rhinestone brooch, this one a frog, sold for $14.75. This one here, Earthworm Jim, Super Nintendo, sold for $27. I used to be able to buy SNES games all day long for $1.99, but recently the local thrift shops have caught on to a lot of this, how much they're actually selling for, and it's rare now for them not to look up the game and give you the exact price they're selling for online. As I mentioned before, here's the start of some more of these Dragon Ball Z characters. This one is a 2003 Goku, sold for $8.40. This is a German Shepherd Littlest Pet Shop figure, sold for $3.59. Here's another Littlest Pet Shop figure, little kitten, sold for $3.59. This was a nice find. There's a vintage Giorgio Armani tortoiseshell sunglasses. They sold for $59.99. And I think it's important to point out that if you're buying sunglasses, you do not have to worry about there being scratches. You need to specify the scratches. But when I first started, I wouldn't buy the ones with scratches. And I learned that a lot of people that are buying these, they buy them simply to replace parts on their vintage sunglasses. So say an arm breaks, they'll buy this one so they can replace the arm, because Giorgio Armani no longer makes this set of sunglasses. Next we have a vintage John Deere hat. John Deere always sells, it takes time, but I've got at least 20 of these hats. This one was a very interesting find. I used to buy vases of jewelry, and this was in there. It's a solid 14 karat gold belly button ring, and this sold for $50. This is a Polaroid camera, the Swinger model. It's from the 1960s. I usually get, I can usually sell these, flip them. I buy them for about $2.99, and I can flip them for $20. But this one is one of those weird models that no one really wants, and this one sold for $9. This is a 2002 Dragon Ball Z Goku figure, sold for $9. Another Littlest Pet Shop figure. It's a fairy princess or fairy empress, sold for $3.59. Here is a set of their glass paperweights or desk decor, whichever you prefer. But they're in the shape of scale weights, old school scale weights. They don't weigh out to, they can't be used as scale weights because they don't weigh what they say they weigh. But this set here sold for $17.99. The next two items sold to the same person. They're both Dragon Ball Z characters. The first one is, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, Poi Poi, and the other one is Juice, not sure. They both sold for $22.80. We'll see how this one ends up turning out because the buyer requested to change that shipping address. I've had issues with that in the past. This person, I looked up both the addresses and they both come from extremely expensive houses, so it kind of makes sense. This is an antique cement doorstop, or some people use them in their yards, in their gardens. This one sold for $68. This next one, I'm not sure a lot of people do this, but if you see these, if you there are always these aisles when you go into Goodwill where they have the office supplies. Well, if you look in there, a lot of people don't look at that kind of stuff. There's pencils, old school pencils that sell for good money. A lot of people like the real lead pencils, or if you get the pencil sharpeners, those also go for big money. This right here is from when people used to actually keep bookkeeping. Now I use GoDaddy, but this is the way that a lot of people did that. Is you'd write it down in a little ledger. Well, this is an unused one, and it sold for $18. This right here is a vintage roller skates with wings derby pin. It was engraved with the name Elise, and it's a very cool older piece. You just need, it's one of those things that's not going to sell, doesn't matter how far you drop the price. It just takes a long time. This here sold for $9. This next piece, I like to buy a lot of folk art. This right here is a carved wood cat. It sits on the shelf kind of looking down, so you'd place it on a shelf above your head. This sold for $65. I have a lot of these little pins. They're house pins by Lucinda. Lucinda makes other ones. There's ones for Christmas. This is a Christmas one, but there's other styles that go along with the holidays. This one sold for $14.99. Here's the last of the things that sold this week. This sold for $11.40 and is a Dragon Ball Z character, Frieza. So if you can already see that I've already made more money on the Dragon Ball Z characters than it cost me, and I still have about 59 of them left to sell. So until next week.